Hello, everyone, and welcome to This Week in Hospitality Marketing, show number 559. I'm your host, Lauren Gray. Thank you so much for joining us today as we watch everyone begin to come live onto the show. Thank you so much for joining us. If you're new to our show, no matter which medium you're following us on, that's a great medium to be on, whether it be Facebook, simulcast, YouTube channels, whether it's on Twitch, or whether you're watching us on our TV channel, the Hospitality Channel, or listening to us on Hospitality Radio. Any of those are wonderful choices, and thank you so much for catching us. And hopefully, if you like this, please rate us, review us, and if you have any comments, suggestions, or feedback, please reach out to me at lauren@hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com. I answer each and every email related to both the TV show here and also the podcast for the radio station as well. So with that, let's cut into what we're going to be talking about today. As we've talked about the use of ads, we've gotten very granular, not very granular, we've gotten granular more than just superficial as to how functioning campaigns work. We've gone through the derogatory comments that most times you see ads built in two categories, brand, non-branded, and the brands are pretty much straightforward, who, what, and where you are. And then the non-branded is more about what you are in relationship to where you are, or amenities and values and things that are of direct interest that you are correlated to, mostly around your destination and things surrounding your destination or a particular style of travel, whatever that aspect of you is from a non-named, non-branded term. That's what the non-branded campaigns are. And the complaint I often have you hear me say, if you have been listening to the show over the years, which we're into our 12th year coming up. Wow. Anyways, we do it every week, no matter where we are in the world. Currently, we're in the Netherlands. The non-branded campaigns tend to be very generic and very small layered into what your property is and where it is and what value it has and what amenities there are. And it's left at that. So we've, over the past few shows here, 56, 57, 54, 55, we've talked about the uniqueness of ad campaigns, the generation of your top 6% of your ads tend to be your lion's share development of KPI value, the largest revenue generators, and you tend to focus most, if not all, eventually of your campaign monies towards those, depending upon how deep your pockets are. But we showed the value that the additional borderline KPI ad campaigns have a couple of values to them. One is the ability to explore variations in targeting, which we talked about last week in show 558, as to how those ads can be as good as your top performing ads, maybe with some minor discovery tweaks, like changing the variations of the targeting of it compared to the targeting you're doing with your productive ads without it being duplicative. Or better yet, some of the most value related things about your borderline producing ad campaigns is the fact that it allows you to educate AI and AI agents as to a variety of points of content that you want them to know about you without them having to do the traditional slower SEO discovery process and relying for to be indexed by SEO engines or to be discovered because of a particular search query and coming up based on value of volume. These ads give short circuits, in a way, the shorthands would be a better probably word of saying it, the ability for AI to discover more about you based on what you want to say from your ads, because you're also developing content related to your ads. That's your landing pages. We talked about that as well in the strategy. So, wow, that was a long lead into what we're talking about today. So in the division of campaigns and the value of the campaigns and segmentation of what monies you spend for the campaigns comes also the discussion of customizing the campaigns. Now, we've talked about targeting. We talked about budgets. We haven't talked about really one of the strongest tools that you can use in your customization of your ad campaigns, and that is custom audiences. So our topic today is custom audiences, the rarely used but incredibly valuable tool. Now, what are custom audiences? In simple terms, they're your ability to choose people that have engaged with you, whether ad campaigns, the engagement of your ads, or from your website, your actual analytics, people that have engaged with your site, and define them as an audience to be used in additional campaign focus. A simple example, everybody that has come to your website but has not booked in the past 30 days. That should be an easy audience to make. or valuable audience, I should say, as an example, because what you're saying is you brought them all the way to the well. They've seen you, but for whatever their reason is, they didn't convert. So it might have been a timing issue. It may have been a content issue. It may have been an offer issue. It may have been an availability issue. There's a lot of varieties that we have an uncertainty factor for as to why it may not have happened at that moment when they did see you and did discover everything that they were looking at, that they didn't book. Now, I wouldn't say to just generally say anybody that came to my website that didn't book. No. You have the ability to choose at what stage of their engagement with your website do you define them. Did they go to your booking engine, which is really a better clarity? They actually came to your website, didn't bounce because it was improperly presented to them, irrelevant content, therefore nothing of interest or what they were looking for, so it's just wasted money on your part to try to pursue them. Instead, they actually went all the way to the booking engine. That's a really good audience. Also, keeping in mind, you're dealing with a much more compressed audience size. Now, there's a good and a bad to all of this. The good is that it is a defined audience that already is aware of your product. So the conversion value of this audience is substantively higher when they do convert because you've spent less money getting to them, number one. And number two, they already have got a predication to what you are. And so being represented with you, or maybe you changing the content, which we'll talk about a little bit, or whatever it is that you define the audience for, the custom audience for, is the kicker that pushes them over the edge for conversion, puts them into the ZMOD, okay? In case I use an algorithm that you don't, ZMOD is zero moment of transaction. It's an older term nowadays. Google came up with it, decades ago, as to that moment when people go from looking to booking. So the custom audiences are a critical tool in one, cost saving, because you're dealing with a smaller audience and a more defined audience, and you're a more authoritative audience. So Google isn't going to charge you as heavily for your presence against them because it sees that they already were connected to you, because you literally are telling Google to find the audiences that engaged with you to a certain level, and you want to use that as an audience for a campaign, okay? But it improves your conversion, but it doesn't improve your volume. So this is where you start getting into how terminology used in KPIs make a difference. From a marketer's perspective, or ROAS, return on ad spend, will be substantively higher for campaigns that have custom audiences tethered to them because they spend so much less to get that revenue. So spending $1 and getting a 20-to-1 conversion makes them look like they're amazingly targeted tools. However, the volume of production that these audiences, the use of custom audiences, is definitively different than larger audiences and smaller conversions. There's a volume play to that, where custom audiences are more of a quality play to them. This means that if you're needing a revenue goal of X hundreds of thousands of dollars for that month, you may be very successful in a very targeted, very specific, granular to custom audience, okay, that generates phenomenally great conversion at an incredibly low price, really great, but the volume isn't there. You're only, a few $1,000s. It's helpful. And of course, a lot more of those would be cumulatively more helpful. But volume-wise, it's not as impactful to your KPI goal. So you have to keep the balance act with what you're doing with custom audiences. The other part with custom audiences is that it goes back to the old 80-20 rule. 80% of your business is actually generated from 20% of your audiences. It's a generic term, but it has value to it. Just like we talked about, the top 6% of your ads tend to be the ultimate higher generating ads that you run and get the lion's share, if not the entire share, of your ad spend. That goes with custom audiences as well. What you're really doing by having a custom audience is, instead of saying, I want to talk to anybody that's of an interest, targeting of these things, my destination or dates or events or the things that I'm talking about, instead, I'm saying on top of that, I want to talk to people that are already engaged with me or know about me. Now, there's good and bad things about this and how you handle custom audiences. You can blindly hurt yourself by being too dedicated to custom audiences without creating a negative aspect to your audiences. What do I mean by that? I'll give you an example from an email perspective that I used to use all the time in speaking engagements about a groups recovery program that we had done years back. So we had a group that canceled 2 weeks out that represented over 60% of our occupancy in one of our hotels. It was for a tragic reason. They had been a repeat customer or guest client of ours for many years. We could have enacted the attrition clause to it, the cancellation, but that was just not good business. It was a sad thing that caused them to not be able to have their event, and they had been a very great customer, guest, a client of ours for many years, and they anticipated to continue on years after. Burning them just to pay for 1 year was not it. So we decided we had to fill this gap. So we looked at it being 2 weeks out, and we made custom audiences of our email lists. Now, this is the email example of what I'm going to be referring to in our custom audience list in just a minute. And what we did was we took the list and took of everybody that was in Drive Market within 500 miles. The reason being is that anybody outside of that, because we didn't have a heavy airlift to the market that we're in, and even then we're too far into the flight booking window to really think we're going to get much from it, was that they were the an audience that would have the highest possibility of taking advantage of the offer that we were going to present for that missing occupancy. Now, other revenue strategies would usually just say, well, terrible thing happened. If you're doing it that way, drop all of your rates, steal business from your competitors who now are mad at you because you undercut them on the rate. And of course, you're going to put money back on the table because a lot of your current customers are going to go over and see that you have a lower rate and they're going to rebook with the lower rate. That's the traditional older way, and still, unfortunately, is what happens a lot of times currently. We decided not to do this. So we took the Drive audience. Then we took an audience and we looked back and said, who stayed with us last year at these same dates? And we made an audience out of them as well. So now we had everybody that stayed about this time last year. So we know that there is propensity to stay, whether they have a reason to stay again or not really a thing, just we know that they stayed last year, same time. And everybody within the 500-mile Drive Market radius, which was great in the sense that we could go over and get the highest yield off of that particular audience. But then we did a third audience, and that was we took everybody that was on the books for those dates and made it a negative audience. And what we mean by that is that what we were about to offer in our campaigns purposely excluded the people that were on that were already booked with us for those dates from seeing it. Why? Because we were offering potentially a better deal than what they have already booked. Now, we didn't cut ourselves down to the quick on this. We just simply took the group booking rate that we had. We're trying to replace the volume and value of the lost group book that we had. And we put out an email and put out a campaign really based on the addresses for the emails that gave us permission to do that, to take advantage of our offer. The good news was, and the reason why I used this example of my speaking engagements at the time, was because we were able to fill the whole void with that strategy. And very little got lost in any rebookings. I mean, you can't totally black out, but you can certainly diminish the possibility of current guests seeing that there's a better rate out there. And that's what you have to do with custom audiences. Because one, and the biggest one for this, is not that you may be offering something better or more affordable or higher value or anything else that would create confusion for the currently booked guest. As it is, they don't need to hear those messages from you about buying something when they've already bought something. That's the key element about the negative impact on your custom list. Make sure that you're consistently removing the people that are currently booked. Now, that's not an easy task and not something you can do completely accurate, because in the world of GA4, you have the traffic coming in that you've designated as to what you want to create an audience from. But you need to create a filter also of removing the people that have bookings during the range offer, okay? Because it's still going to happen. They're still going to see it through other means of targeting that you've done, and other ways that they search, and other ways that you advertise, that your display ads and things like this that go through based on triggers of the targeting. So it's not as if they're not going to be exposed to what you're doing. It's more of courtesy to dilute that ever painful high frequency advertisement that so many times agencies and properties do to themselves, where once you've touched anything about them, they almost berate you with persistent ads. Facebook, social, the things, the paid ad campaigns, display ads, everything, all of a sudden, everything has their name on it. And it frustrates you that even if you bought something with them, you're a little bit like, really? I already bought with you, and you're just nagging me now about stuff that I don't need to know about. As we've talked about in previous shows about engagement and consumer CRM, translating the communication that you have with your guests after they've acquired to a pre-arrival, arrival, in-house, post-stay engagement is ultimately much more valuable, much more important than the beratement of persistently product aware, other purchase, click to buy communications. We also talk about funnel communications. The progressive messaging you do in campaigns is incredibly important. Now, the content that you do about awareness and don't miss and FOMO and the things that you do to make sure that people realize why your hotel is of value for staying there, for the things that are of interest around it, those can be moderately shared within your custom audience realm because you're providing value of relationship. But I would even say one step better is to go over and create your own communication with those that have booked with you that's even better than the standard communication you're doing in the funnel messaging, progressive selling that you're doing with everyone other than those who have booked with you. So with custom audiences, it's beyond the targeting that you do with demographics and behavioral and so forth. It's defined by their engagement or any engagement that they've had with you, even when it comes to watching your videos. Okay, I'll give you some examples of great customer. Abandoned booking recovery. This is literally the first message, the idea I gave you is that anybody that's had your booking engine in the past 30 days but didn't book should be in a custom audience already. Because you can then take that custom audience and put targeting on it. Like, well, I want anybody that came to my booking engine didn't book, but I want my drive market, or I want my feeder market, or I want my targeted event market. You can use the custom audience. It's not an or, it's an and. Custom audience and targeting, okay? But keep in mind that the targeting you're doing has twofold: non-engaged people, okay, which is not custom audiences, and your custom audience, which is already previously engaged people. So the targeting can be used at the same time, but for different reasons and should have different messages. Your custom audience messaging should be from the perspective that they are already aware of you, so it's not a reveal. It should be about what they came to you for, that the audience was built for. Okay, cart abandonment in this case. So you're looking at value proposition and or event driven interest and or awareness of destination. The point is you have another message past the initial one that got them engaged with you to continue on, and based upon what they engaged with you. Family event stuff versus soft adventure versus romantic versus food versus spa, whatever those variations are, the content for that custom audience should be crafted to that engagement that it's based on. Okay, not generic, not, oh well, I have this people that went to my spa page, but I'm gonna push the heck out of my summer offer. Why? Unless your summer offer has a spa component to it, probably wouldn't do that. I'd probably keep with the idea that they engaged with you for the spa. You certainly can refer that you have great summer opportunities, or why not enjoy a spa in the summer? You can tailor the message to the custom audience better for higher value than just taking generic ads that I've already built, so I don't have to. That's being lazy. Making an ad that you use for everything is lazy. Making only a few ads is lazy. Only making a few type of communication ads is lazy. Okay, a video nowadays is phenomenally easy to make without a tremendous amount of content cost. Text ads, click to call ads, image ads, oh my gosh, variations. The image has as much of a power of defining what the message is about as the message itself. And if you're not trying to hard sell in an ad everything about the offer, which you should never do, it should only be an incentive to click so that you can find out more on the landing page that it goes to, then the image has as much, if not more value than the message itself. We all try to get cutesy with our slogans, stay in adventure or whatever it is that we say about ourselves. It's ambiguous. It's keyword buzz, okay? The image of showing something that is of entertainment and fun, especially if it's a custom audience that was already engaged with that kind of content that the image is now related to, is a huge first step in connecting the interest of the user at it to say, oh, there's the bungee jumping. Yeah, I went to their page. Well, let's click on that. Boom. And now it goes to a page about why staying at your resort or hotel or anything gets you right next door to the bungee jumping thing that they had been initially interested in. If they still don't book, there's the retargeting that comes in. Great. That may not have resonated with them. Maybe they're no longer interested in bungee jumping, or we don't know this. Maybe the inventory isn't available. So let's talk about the value of things other than bungee jumping, but bungee jumping still being at the core, as to how bungee jumping stays open for all summer, and that the weekdays are quieter than the weekends. So if you really wanted to be able to enjoy bungee jumping a few times, then maybe come during the weekdays. I'm making a lot of stuff up when I say these things, but these are the ways you segment out your ad variations, your audience variations, and your targeting variations. One of the other ways of custom audiences is seasonal retargeting. Now, I'm saying retargeting, but I'm also saying audiences. Those that engaged with you specific to your Christmas page, your Christmas offers, your Christmas things. Maybe you make a gingerbread in your lobby. Maybe you make you're next to a very big festive holiday thing. Make an audience. Now, here's the kicker. Unless you've already made an audience in Google, and Bing follows the same rules, so I'm going to say it for that as well. You're not going to have the availability of doing it until you pass through that time window where it gets developed. Audiences, unlike GA4, that can go back and discover content because it tracks everything. So you can go back in your analytics and say, I wonder who went to my offers page and then my images of my king bed and then went to my spa page. I want to make a report for that. And it'll do that. Okay. And you can do the same and make an audience for it. But the audience doesn't start accumulating until you've defined it. And from that moment forward, Google will track the combinations that you've created and create the audience. And it'll tell you, actually, as you make audiences in Google, and it's fascinating it's fun. Actually, you go down rabbit holes all the time. Well, what about this person that wears blue shirts, that wears white sneakers, that goes to my accommodations page and then to the pool page? You can paint yourself in so many corners of, well, this shows that this person is interested in this. You have to keep from a tiered level: the most valuable, the next most valuable, the moderately valuable, the least valuable, and hey, that's pretty granular, but you know what? Somebody probably does it. That kind of tier level. But the idea of this seasonal retargeting, if you were smart enough during previous times to have built general audiences, say, everybody that goes to my Christmas specials page, I want an audience for them. Because now, and it'll keep track of it, you have the ability to see and use that aspect. Now, here's the kicker to this. Audiences don't stay forever. So a lot of times, excuse me, sorry for the sneezing. Sometimes you find that your audience's volume changes by the time you get to use it. Setting the audiences up so that they have a longer runtime allows you to cultivate the audience sizes necessary that Google will say quite clearly. There's an audience large enough to target for this. Sometimes you make too granular of an audience, and Google just says it's just not enough people. Or it'll say that this is too specific, and for privacy reasons, we won't let you create an audience for that. All the platforms tend to do that. Now, the difference between audience generation in Google and Bing versus audience generation in Facebook is social media, especially Facebook, is very passive engagement. There's not a lot of hard direct selling, like, hey, buy this now, buy this now. If it is, it's usually off brand, it's tone deaf. You're usually looking at progressive communication, insight, and awareness. That process of audience building is based on that. You're looking at people that are engaged with certain interests that are general, not specific to your destination. Demographics. The targeting tends to blend with the audience building in Facebook in lots of ways. But you're dealing with a much longer tail of discovery than you are with paid campaigns that tend to be triggered based on windows of interest and progression of conversion. Social tends to be progression of interest to the point of engagement and then carried forward to the point of conversion. So there's a bit of an arc beforehand compared to the paid arc that's in front of it. Now, we didn't talk about the really amped jet fuel value of custom audiences. And that is lookalike audiences. Now, lookalike audiences are incredibly powerful for expansion of targeting people that go beyond the criteria of customize. Customize says they've engaged with you, and because of that, they're already aware of you. Lookalike audiences say that if this is the combination of the type of person that you have had engagement with, okay, you've identified about the engagement user that you have, then lookalikes are then offering that says, well, we know enough about everybody using our platforms, Facebook being primary when I say this, that we can take and look at your ideal who's in this custom audience and look for everybody that matches all of that. So now instead of just having 1,000 people that are under the criteria that you've created the custom audience for, I can now make that 100,000 people in the United States or in Europe or wherever that match what you say is the person you want to target to people that are not aware of you. Because if they're the same type of people for most of these circumstances, they too, symbiotically, would probably be interested in what you're trying to say your custom audience, which is from your own people that have engaged with you, probably want to know about you and be interested in you as well. So lookalike audiences are huge amplifiers. Now, this goes back into the targeting medium again, because targeting then goes that says this audience is the people that we think are most likely to be interested in us, but now we have to feature who are we wanting to talk to demographically? Who do we want to talk to behaviorally? These variations then go into the targeting world more, but they are an amp up to just targeting, saying that geographically this area is who we're looking for, or behaviorally this is the people we're looking for, or demographically these are the people we're looking for. Instead, it's based on the people that have already engaged with us and enjoyed us, and we have this audience, this custom audience. When I take this custom audience and amplify it to being a similar lookalike audience, where there's a larger number of people now we can talk to, but they're not as familiar with us. The messaging has to change with that as well. You can't talk into the first person familiar with a lookalike audience because they don't know who you are, like your custom audience is. But they would be empathetic or sympathetic or in tune with what it is you're saying about yourself because of the similarity of profile that they are compared to your custom audience that is aware of you. So it's like the middle spectrum of three variations of communication. Custom audiences are first person familiar. Lookalike audiences are more third person familiar. And targeted audiences are just third person in the sense of tonality. Targeting is talking to them because there's a likelihood they would be interested. Lookalikes, you're talking to them because there's a likelihood not just of being interested in them, but most likely there's a high level of engagement potential because of similarities to the people that are already familiar with you. So that's the progression of how custom audiences fit into the spectrum of custom, lookalike, and then targeting. That's the value of how you have to look at your ad campaign variations. We've talked about ads that are for a progression of communication. Ads for awareness turn into ads of engagement, which create custom audiences. And we've talked about in the show 557, 556, where as people engage with your ads, you call custom audiences from them. They engaged with your water skiing package or your water skiing offer, your summer offer that had water skiing. They went to your summer water skiing page. They discovered you because they used certain keywords for water skiing. And because of that, they engage with your website. That creates an audience that then you go to the next step and you start talking to that audience about the next version of your water skiing discovery content. It's offer incentive or depth of awareness or expanded interest on water skiing. For those that didn't engage with your audience, okay, with the water skiing, then that might just become an awareness campaign, and you might change your targeting to being maybe, depending upon where you get your most engagement from, you might focus, and that's your top 6% of your ads related to the water skiing package because of the ad variations that you had the better results with. Then you take your not as good KPI water ski ads and say, what of the targeting filters can I change to make them better production? Maybe, geographically, this isn't an area that's interested in water skiing. Maybe demographically, these people aren't in a physical interest of water skiing. And you change these things to see if it has a positive or negative impact. All the while knowing that all the content that you're putting out there for your highly productive ads, your moderately productive ads, and your low productive ads are educating AI that you have a water skiing feature, or that you are related to water skiing, or that you have water skiing packages, or you have a value to people that enjoy water skiing. Any which way, there's a value to that targeting. The custom audience is the cultivation of that. We're saying now I want to have a more engaged next step conversation of content for them to hopefully bring them down the path of conversion. For those that don't engage with it, it turns into a negative, saying, well, let's expose as a second ad type for the ones that are targeting the water skiing that we have water sports. So maybe it's not the water skiing as it is, we're just near water and have water sports. We have floaties, we have skim boards, we have jet skis, we have sailing classes or whatever have you. You might vary the content to see if that makes a difference to those that you're already targeting. Water skiing didn't resonate, but maybe the water sports did. But it's not the same ad getting pumped out all the time in ad infinitum, and you just abandon the campaign or abandon the ads because they just aren't producing. You vary those up to see if there's a different way that targeting could be of value, but not as selective as you did with the water skiing. So you're always changing, and the ad types may change. Maybe there's a visualization you need, an image instead of a text, maybe a video instead of an image. The ad variations are just as important. The image changes are just as important. The message is just as important. And all of that going to a landing page, that content is just as important. If you're talking about water skiing, you always to make sure that you include the variations of all the water sports you do have. Water skiing is key, supplemented by the additional water sports that you may have. So even if they weren't that interested, but then discovered that, well, I wasn't so much into the water skiing, but they have kayaks. Oh, that's pretty cool. You still are introducing them to the fact of what might be of general interest. And if they engage with your page and follow a link about kayaks or kayak scheduling or anything, that creates a custom audience. So even though it may have started with a targeted campaign for water skiing, to go to your water skiing page that also talked about your other water sports, and they connected to kayaking, and that went to your kayaking information, that creates its own custom audience that you then can say, great, let's take this custom audience and send them additional information about the discoveries of using kayaks. There's the cool places to go kayaking that's in our area, or the guides that we use, or whatever it is that content-wise is of increased value. Again, allowing additional content beyond the kayaking. They might look and go, oh, I was interested in kayaking, but look, they have a dolphin sighting. The kids would love that, or whatever, or we'd love that, or whatever. And because remember, we're not linear in our discovery, okay? We were very much all over the board. Spherical is the way people discover what it is that they want to do. And now all of a sudden that creates its own variation of custom audience. Now, ads that were related to the kayaking, they're not paying attention to. So you stop those as the next ad, and the next ad behind that is, well, what did they engage with? Well, that custom audience was with dolphin sighting, dolphin venture. Okay. And so on. So you're constantly trying to keep engaged out of the interest that the custom audiences have identified through the content you presented. So there's always a conversation going on. Front of mind is as important as it is moment of opportunity for transaction. If you stay front of mind, you will always be a consistent consideration for conversion compared to the, I got to time this right, ta-da, which is what most ad campaigns try to do. See if I missed anything else. No, reaction is for, testing of these things usually goes on to a discovery process for, I may note to myself, it's not as if, when you make custom audiences, a lot of it is to see whether or not you made the right custom audience. And then what did you do with that custom audience when it came to targeting? That's why you have these ad variations. You try something, doesn't seem to work. You look at the modifiers that you put on it and change a modifier that you think was either questionable or the least of the most priority ones that you put on it. And you progressively try to see if it's the message, if it's the content, or if it's the modality of putting it in front of them, or if it's the targeting you've created for them. With all these variations, there's always a need to have variables to try differently. Like, okay, let's flip this and change the demographics and see if that makes a difference in the ads, engagement with the ads. Okay, that didn't work. Okay, so it's not demographics. Let's change the behavioral of that. Doesn't make a difference. Okay, maybe the content is it. Let's change the content of it, but keep the filter for a different content piece. it's a constant evolution. It's not an all or nothing. Oh, that ad didn't work. Let's throw it away. Always ads are good, just maybe not good at the right time. Think about that. So think well the custom audiences, the value of them, the ability to do them is profound. It's one of the three major tools outside of targeting that you can do. And then, of course, lookalikes are an amplification of custom audiences. Channel segmentation, channel use, timing of which channel gets used, social being the predicator to a paid campaign involvement, so forth and so on. These are the high value things that you need to look at when you're looking at custom audiences. So custom audiences, the rarely used but incredibly valuable tool, is something you need to consider in your strategy discussions with your internal team if they're handling your paid campaigns, your vendor if they're handling your paid campaigns, or if you're the one handling paid campaigns. You need to constantly think of, this isn't the end all be all ad. What can I change? What should I change? What is changeable to see if it can perform differently, better being the reason for that question. So again, for everyone that watches us around the world in 209 countries for our TV channel, for everybody that listens to us on the replay at 11:30 a.m. Sydney, Australian, and London time, so all of our APAC friends can catch a better time zone of the show, and our EU and Mideast friends can catch us at a better time zone. Although here I am in the Netherlands, so I'm already technically on the time zone just later in the day to do the show. If you have any questions to what I've discussed, two ways. One is you can always reach out to me via email at lauren@hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com. The second is you can always reach out to me at htm.news/talkback. There's an audio component to that. You could, if you're in a hospitality marketer and want to join a peer level group that literally discusses the how-tos of these things in our peer groups, then you can reach out to hospitalitymarketing.club, put your email in, I send a quiz, pass the quiz, join the club. Then please do so on that. With that, my name is Lauren Gregg. I thank you for the privilege of your time and look forward to talking to you all next week.